Hello, hello. Happy Monday. Okay, y'all, we have got another eclipse happening this week. I know we've been talking a lot about astrology the last few weeks, and this week is continuing that. Next week, we'll go a little bit outside of the realm of astrology. We'll still bring some of it in, but we're going to be kind of going back and forth between this more practical episodes and more astrology based. And part of that is because right now there is a lot happening astrologically that is going to impact us not only in the short term, but for 10, 15, 20 years to come. The energy of the first 6 months of this year is energy that is going to have ripple effects throughout the rest of our lives. So it's not something that I think we should be taking lightly. It's not something I think we should be glossing over. It is something that should be directly influencing and impacting the decisions that we're making for ourselves, for our teams, at work, at home. The astrology of this time period matters deeply. So let's talk about that because we are doing another astrology-based episode. We have eclipse season. Anytime there's one eclipse, there's going to be at least one more, if not two more. It comes in twos or threes. And with that, we know, okay, there's usually some kind of a little storyline that's playing out. And this one happens to be playing out in a much broader storyline. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to try to keep this as grounded as I can, but please remember that my energy is Aquarius, Capricorn, Libra, right? I am very out there. I think of the big picture. I'm always thinking of the high level view. And then my challenge is to bring that into the practical. So I'm going to do that as much as I can, but hoping that you can also make some of those connections yourselves because these connections aren't ones that I can necessarily make for you in a podcast, right? If we were doing a coaching session, it would be a lot easier for me to go, okay, here is how this directly applies to you. Here is how you might integrate that. We would talk through that, ask questions, but that's not what the podcast is doing. The podcast really is meant to be more big picture view. So with the eclipse that's happening tomorrow, this is being released on March 2nd. The eclipse is March 3rd. Whenever you're listening to this, even if it's a year later, the energy is still at play for you. The energy still, while it may not be as strong and as potent, there's still going to be ripple effects a year or more from now, or even a week from when this is released, whenever you're listening. March 3rd. At 3:33 a.m. Pacific time. So 33333, that's pretty significant. 3 is a creative number. So we're talking about creating something. Think about the Trinity 3. There's a lot of different ways that we can think about threes, but we need to be thinking about threes right now. The sun will be at 12 degrees of Pisces when this eclipse happens, and the moon will be at 12 degrees of Virgo. And I think it can be helpful to look at the big picture Pisces and Virgo themes. We've done that before. And so I really want to hone in on the Sabian symbols for these 2 degrees. This is a really good way to get the nuanced version of what is happening. Whenever we look at the Sabian symbols, we look at the number for 1 up from whatever the degree is. So if it's at 12 degrees of Pisces, we're going to 13. So Pisces 13, the symbol is a sword in a museum. This one is all about ending battles, learning from the past. This is really important because I think that this is connected to the battles of Saturn and Neptune conjunctions. We just had a conjunction. We had the eclipse. We had the Saturn-Neptune conjunction and then another eclipse. We cannot separate these things from each other. That conjunction happened in the middle of this eclipse season. When we look at Saturn and Neptune conjunctions, we see multiple times that the conjunctions not only bring some kind of a big advancement, either technology advancement, the way that we think as a community, but it also tends to bring conflict. And I think that this eclipse happening on the Sabian symbol of a sword in a museum is giving us an invitation to imagine learning from our battles of the past, right? We had In 1989, that was the fall of the Berlin Wall. Tiananmen Square protests were happening. There was a lot going on, revolutionary things going on in China at the time. In the early 1950s, we had the McCarthy era. We had the nuclear arms race, the Cold War. In 1917, these are all years when Saturn and Neptune were together. We had World War I and the Russian Revolution. In 1773, we had the American Revolution. So many of these conjunctions brought about significant conflicts. This eclipse is happening on the symbol for a sword in a museum. We just had an eclipse in Aquarius inviting us to envision a better future. I don't know that the universe could be any more clear with its invitation to us saying, could y'all please envision a different way that does not include so much violence? That is something that I think we all need to take very, very seriously. I don't have an answer for that question. That is a question that we as a society are going to have to grapple with over the coming year. Are we willing, are we capable of envisioning a future and enacting a future with less violence? Here's the challenge of that. We have major power struggles at play right now. We have people in power who are going to continue grasping at the way things have been, trying to use the strategies of the past in order to maintain their power. And unfortunately, the strategies of the past are very violent. And the universe is asking us, could you do this differently? This eclipse is bringing, this whole season is bringing revolutionary energy, and we cannot overlook that. I do think that we have to be willing to hang up our swords, but there's also kind of another piece of this that we have to look at with this. The other side of the eclipse that's happening is at 12 degrees Virgo. The Sabian symbol for 13 Virgo is a powerful statesman or a strong hand overcoming political hysteria. Y'all, this is timely. This is happening in real time. Astrology isn't abstract. That's why I love looking at the Sabian symbol for these, because I don't know what could be more timely right now. There are people in power who are trying to squash narratives, who are trying to squash activism, who are trying to silence what they are claiming is hysteria around very real issues. That is already happening. This eclipse is going to shake that up. And I think what we need to be looking at is, who are we looking to in moments of chaos, in moments of crises? Who are we going to look to? Because it can't be the people we've looked to in the past. It can't be the people in power right now, because they have shown us who they are. And if we choose not to believe them, that joke is on us. I want us to start thinking about, when there is chaos, when there is revolutionary energy afoot, when we are being told, right, very Neptune, Saturn, and Aries, when we are being told that what we see is not reality, we have to find people who we can look to help us make sense of things. And I want to go back to this idea of the sword in a museum. There is this imagery in biblical Christianity and Judaism of, eventually working toward a world or a heaven in which swords are turned into plows. And there's other sacred texts that have this imagery, right? I think this is a innate human longing that we hang up our violence and turn to creation. That number 3 is about creation. That we, instead of responding violently, that we respond creatively. And I think that is an invitation, as well as something that I'm completely blanking on the word right now, y'all. Something stronger than an invitation. The universe is telling us this is the turning that it's asking us to take. It's inviting us to take it, but whether we want to or not, we're headed that direction. That's what the universe is saying with this, is we are headed toward a world where violence is not valued as highly as it has been. I do think that's part of our evolutionary process that we're going through. And I want you to look around and see, who is it that is still clinging to violence? Who is it that is still using violence to get their ways? And I don't just mean physical. There's a lot of different forms of violence. I feel like I'm opening up a really, really big can of worms because there are so many questions that come along with this. But I'm mostly just trying to kind of stir the pot a little bit with this, that we are being given a choice. We are being given a choice of how we want to handle this. And part of that comes because this eclipse is happening with the sun in Pisces, where we also have Mercury, Mars, and Venus, and then the South Node are all in Pisces with the sun during this eclipse. Mercury, Mars, and Venus are our three personal planets. They have to do with our interpersonal relationships. The other planets have more to do with the collective. And so, yes, there is this collective reckoning, this collective release, this collective shakeup going, hey, can you learn from the past? Can you learn from the violence and the struggles of the past Neptune, Saturn conjunctions, and maybe leave the violence there where it's a learning opportunity versus something you continue? Or are you going to keep doing that? And while there's this kind of political upheaval, people are going to try to squash that. And I think this is a two-sided coin, right? There's the squashing of activism. There's the trying to silence those who are speaking truth. But there's also the sense of, we need people we can look to when things are chaotic, right? If there's political hysteria happening, it's because there is chaos, whether that's physical, mental, emotional. The hysteria is there because of chaos. And so who are we looking to help guide us through this? And one of the things that I think we need to be thinking of is, what is the fruit of that person's narrative? What is the outcome of what they are saying is going to happen? And if you're listening to this, I already know you probably want a different way forward. And I don't just mean that in an abstract way. I think you're ready to say, F the systems that are in place right now, F the people in power right now, let it all burn down. Because there is so much harm being caused to others through the way that things are. We as individuals have some say in that, but the thing that we have the most say in is how we show up. And I think that's the storyline that we're in right now, is we have spent the first 2 months of this year with the universe saying, get clear on you. Get clear on who you are, on what your gifts are, on what you uniquely bring to the collective. Get clear on your values. Get clear on what matters to you. Get clear on what you're willing to stand for and fight for. Be ultra clear on who you are. That in and of itself is a form of leadership, because in a world where we are consistently told not to know who we are, this ability to know who we are and then make decisions in alignment with that, integrate that into our daily life, automatically brings us above the chaos. It rises us above it doesn't separate us from it. We still are impacted by it. We still impact the chaos, but it brings us to a different energy level where people can look to us and go, okay, you might be a calm voice in the hysteria. You might not be the one who's squashing it. You might not be the one who is controlling it, but you might be a calm voice in the hysteria. That is what this eclipse is asking of us individually. On a whole, I just think it's gonna shake shit up. It just is. I don't I don't know any other way to look at this other than astrologers have been pointing to this time for probably decades. I've only been aware of it for a few years because I haven't been in the astrology world that long, but we are living in the middle of a massive transition, just as those who were living in 1989, living in the 50s, right? Living through the 1917 World War I. Those were all major transition periods for the world. In that moment, they didn't know what life was going to look like on the other side of it. In this moment, we don't know what life is going to look like on the other side of this time period. But we do know that the universe is giving us invitation after invitation after invitation to create something new. And we can choose to ignore that because the people in power are too powerful, or we can choose to say, yeah, in what I can control, I'm going to choose to create something new. I'm going to choose to do it differently. I'm going to show up at work caring not only about my purpose, needs, and gifts being met and being fulfilled and being honored, but doing the same for my people. I am going to show up at work and not only, like I talked about on the last episode, keep myself safe, but find ways to create other alternative options that might benefit others, even if it's a little uncomfortable for my need for safety. This eclipse is a release. And I think that it's going to, I don't use astrology to future tell, right? That's not the way that I use it. And I don't think most astrologers use it necessarily to forecast the future, but we use it to look at the energy and we say, how might this energy play out? Given where we're at today, given what we're already seeing, how might this energy play out? I have tried not to say this too much because I don't want it to be a fearful thing, but I feel like with this eclipse, it needs to be said. We have no idea what the next 6, 12, 18 months hold. There's so much that feels up in the air right now that this eclipse is going, yeah, it's up in the air and I'm going to shake it up. And that may feel good. That may feel scary. That may feel like, holy beat, what are we all going to do? And I don't think that there's a single one answer for that. I think you have to know who you are and how you fit in the collective to know how you want to answer that. I think that we all have the opportunity to create something new. And it's not even going to be creating something new for everybody. It's got to start with creating something new for you, for your people, at work, in your community, whatever that happens to be. It's got to start there. Yes, be concerned about what's happening beyond you. Yes, care about politics. Yes, care about the things that matter to you. I'm not saying this is not a like bury your head in the sand, circle your wagons, pretend like there's nobody else out there. But it's got to start with what you can control. It's got to start with what you are capable of influencing. And that is different for each one of us. Okay, friends, I don't know what this eclipse is going to bring. I hope that we can take these these three themes of the eclipse: learning from past battles, right? The sword in the museum, learning from past battles, a strong hand overcoming political hysteria. Who are we trusting? How are we using our discernment, our own intuition to determine who we are trusting in the midst of the chaos? And then the number 3, we cannot ignore that. It's seen over and over in this eclipse, 33333. What kind of a world are we going to create going forward? And it's got to start within. Friends, Drink lots of water this week. Journal, process. Mercury is very much retrograde. This is a time to go within, to tap into not only ourselves, but our guides. I sent out an email. You can go back and look at it on February 25th about Mercury retrograde and talked about the Sabian symbol of this specific retrograde being all about connecting with divinity, with the divine, connecting with our guides. That's more important than ever. So we've had 2 months of connecting with ourselves. This Mercury retrograde is asking us to connect with the divine. And then this eclipse is shaking things up and saying, are you all willing? Are you willing to envision a new way forward? Learn from your past and envision a new way forward. Okay, friends. Next week, the astrology is a little more chill, so we'll have a different episode for you then. But for this week, it's still eclipse energy, and drink lots of water, get lots of rest, give yourself lots of grace. I'm sending you so much love and many blessings.